Minnesota has very strong gun laws. I just asked the team to pull a summary for me before we went on the air. Minnesota requires background checks for handgun purchases at the point of sale and or for permit to purchase. Allows law enforcement and often family members to petition for a court order to temporarily prevent someone in crisis from accessing guns. Bars gun possession by people who have been involuntarily committed or found to be a danger to themselves or others. Requires that firearms be stored, locked, unloaded, and separate from ammo in certain circumstances. Assault weapons prohibited. Bars concealed carry by people with assault or other violent misdemeanor convictions. How many times have we seen this in states with the toughest gun laws in the nation, including New York State, just a month ago, where that guy walked into that building and shot up, the lobby and then went up to the whatever floor it was, 20-something. Talk to me a little bit about the Minnesota attitude toward guns and fortification of soft targets.
I think it's such an important point to bring up in all of this. It wasn't that long ago that school resource officers were not even allowed in Minnesota schools. This was post George Floyd when several departments decided to pull their officers out of the schools. There were some liability issues after some laws passed by the DFL trifecta here in Minnesota at the time. That's the Democratic Party, basically, of Minnesota. And Governor Walz, who still is here as governor, signed off on all of this. Well, finally, they had to go ahead and make some law changes to allow SROs back in school. And that's just pretty recent. So there was more than one school year that passed, not even allowing SROs in schools at all. In Minnesota. And again, hard to ignore the politics at play in Minneapolis. You have a primarily socialist-controlled city council in Minneapolis. This isn't me calling them socialists. They are self-proclaimed socialists. They do not like the police. We continue covering these stories, day after day, month after month, year after year in Minneapolis about their feelings about the police department. This really isn't rocket science if they want to fix this. This we did not report on these issues before, yet they continue to peddle, the crime is down narrative in Minneapolis, despite, we have 4 shootings here in less than 24 hours. And I will say, even the first mass shooting that took place just yesterday outside of the other school barely even made the news. It was about a 20-second mention on the corporate media here in Minnesota because they're not really willing to get to the bottom of why this is happening. And and again, this didn't happen before. You had a Minneapolis Police Department. Nearly 900 officers were once on the force. Now I think it's about 350. They're actually even on the streets of Minneapolis at this point. So that certainly plays a role in this as well.
I want to just remind our viewers that you and Alpha News were behind the documentary about what really happened in the George Floyd situation and with Derek Chauvin, and have backed the blue just by telling the truth. And it's a very important documentary that everybody should see. And obviously you had concerns then about what was happening to the Minneapolis police force, which is it's obviously not necessarily, we don't know yet, at the heart of this, but there will be questions about response time and could it have been faster if there had been more bodies available, and certainly should there just be a standard of a current or retired cop or law enforcement type outside of these venues? I want to play a little bit from the Minneapolis mayor. His name is Jacob Frey. He's the guy who knelt before the casket of George Floyd, which is sort of an infamous moment among people who watched this all go down years ago. And he took to the microphones just as we were coming on the air. Here's what he said.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends.
Okay, I don't understand this, Brandon, when people say reject thoughts and prayers because they didn't happen to prevent the injury. They didn't what does Jacob Frey have in mind? Where were his city mandated security officers? Even his governor, the far left Tim Walz, is offering thoughts and prayers because it's a human response to tragedy.
Well, these godless, mindless people of course they think that thoughts and prayers don't work. Maybe the thoughts and prayers at the school prevented more kids from dying. How would he know? But the funny thing is that if he went to mass to visit this school, he would have a security detail there. Why? Just in case somebody decided to try to take his life. But his thoughts and prayer comment is not backed up with any kind of real tangible actions that he's willing to take. Is he gonna say on the news with his theater that he's presenting that we need to fortify the schools? Let me tell you something real quick, Megyn. I think you know this and everybody on the panel know this. Which one will happen quicker? If we pass legislation to ban every AR-15, every assault weapon or whatever they call it in the state of Minnesota, period, that means nobody can own them. They have a gun confiscation. Which one will happen quicker? That legislative power or fortifying the school? I mean, tonight, they could get police officers at the school. Tonight, they can hire private security. Tonight, they can do it. Every school in the city by at least at the end of this week, every school can have somebody. If they wanted to pass legislation, it's going to take forever. It has to go through the Congress in the state. They have to somehow pass it. It has to go through the House. It has to go through the governor, has to sign in the law. Then it has to go into effect. And then you have to have somebody enforce the law. I mean, these people they make me infuriated, especially when they try to say that thoughts and prayers don't matter. Well, maybe the thoughts and prayers is what have prevented this nut job from shooting this school up a long time ago, or doing more than one school shooting at a time, or the fact that there's 400 million guns and there's not a murder every 20 seconds in this country. Maybe our thoughts and prayers our prayers to God to protect us have been effective. And I just can't stand when these godless people who are either fake Christians, fake Catholics, or they don't believe in God at all, are out here trying to shun a religion for saying we are going to at least pray and be faithful to our God for protection. And just because it don't work 100% of the time in the moment does not mean that God isn't working. It does not mean that we can't do something about it. It's not about just praying. God said in the Bible that you seek and you shall find, knocking and shall be open. That means an action needs to come from you, and God will then protect you in the action that you take.
Thank you so much for saying it. I opened the show saying these are the moments when you see an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old shot to death in a church, at school, opening the day in prayer, that your own faith can get rattled, right? Like, why, God, why? You just don't understand it. But the second half of that is this kind of thing, not this particular tragedy, but tragedy, awful things happen all the time. And you ask God, why? Why would you allow it? Why is it okay? Why do kids get cancer? Why do you let them suffer at all? It's part of being a faithful person to ask that question. And it's totally fine to ask that question. And then you remind yourself, most of us do, of our own status as mere mortals, that we can't know everything. We don't have all the answers, and we never will. But you go on believing anyway. You don't give up on prayer. You don't give up on faith when you need it most. And let's face it, when you're a mayor in a position like this guy, that's just a totally inappropriate response. But who's he trying to pawn responsibility off on, right, James? It's like, you're the mayor. What? You're up there saying thoughts and prayers. What did you do to try to prevent this? Because no one's blaming you yet, but you're out there blaming people for calling for prayer as somehow they're inappropriate.
Yeah, well, Megyn, unfortunately, as a recovering politician, I think a big part of this is politicians use these moments for opportunities to get their name and face in front of the camera, opportunities to apply platitudes and bromides as they feel necessary to, and then also to push their own ideological bent. And look, you laid it out. This is a country of 327 million people. There are 400 million guns in this country. This country was founded upon the Second Amendment. There's no way possible that you're going to go back and figure out the solution here is we're just going to start, collecting up guns. We're going to have a gun buyback program. People are going to willingly turn them in. We're going to offer them $50 gift certificates to Walmart, and that's going to solve the problem. We've got to be pragmatic about this. The vast majority of gun owners in this country, and I say this as a 25-year law enforcement veteran, the vast majority are good and decent citizens citizens. They're the best of the best. They follow the rules. They get permits where applicable. They subject themselves to background checks. They go through the process appropriately. The problem is when you live, as you pointed out at the top of this, when you live in a free society that's not subjected to martial law, it's next to impossible to ensure that evil doesn't happen. And I think Brandon might have mentioned this before, it's the path of least resistance. I tell my kids all the time, if you don't lock your car door, you're going to guarantee somebody breaking into your car and taking something. If you lock it, it's no guarantee that that won't happen, but you make it a little bit more difficult for the criminal. Criminals, evil people, mass shooters, terrorists, they're all the same. They follow the path of least resistance. If this school looked like an opportune place to go and to spray rounds inside windows and to attack people saying their daily mass, that's what happened. Now, is it a guarantee? Is it a panacea to say one armed SRO there might have been the difference? No, but you've got to put the deterrent effect up there. You've got to ensure that you make it as difficult as possible. And Megyn, that's the right conversation to be having now in the wake of this horrible tragedy.
That's right. How many layers? My audience has heard me talk about this before, just from my own security. It's all about putting layers between you and a bad guy. How many layers can you put? And we didn't have enough layers between these children and a bad guy. And it's not 2020 hindsight. It's just a question of, let's be real about how we could have protected them, because it is the first week of school for millions of American school kids. And next week is the first week of school for millions more. And then there really are things that can be done. On that front, James, can I just ask you, because as a news person, I also know, sadly, that these things are often followed by copycat events. I'm sorry to say it. It's just, it is true. And that could be potentially at another place of worship or at another school. And so if you got called in to advise those venues, any one of them right now, what would you be telling them?
That's a great question, Megyn. Look, I grew up in the deep South. You can't tell from my accent, in Decatur, Georgia, in the 1970s and 80s. The biggest fear I had at my elementary school was, oh my gosh, the Russian threat, the Soviet Union is going to bomb us and we have to get underneath our desks, and tornado drills. We never had mass shooting drills. Unfortunately, the paradigm has shifted, and in law enforcement, we have to shift and adapt to that. Now, are copycats real things? Absolutely. But copycats don't just follow something that happens in the news. They could go see a Denzel Washington movie or an Al Pacino movie and see something there, and they could all of a sudden become entranced by that and do the same thing. The problem is, we know that schools, malls, places of mass gatherings, houses of worship, why are those such delectable targets to terrorists and mass shooters that are looking to ratchet up body counts? Because they're soft targets. To go to a sporting event, to go to, MetLife Stadium in New York and watch the New York Giants play,
yes,
you can't be armed. You're going through,
that's right,
as you just pointed out, layers of screening. We need that. Unfortunately, it's a sad state of affairs, but that's where we are. We need that in churches and we need that in schools ASAP.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't, you could do it such that the kids don't even know they're going through a magnetometer. You really could. Like, they'd know, because eventually, somebody would always have something, not a gun, but something metal that would go off, and they'd figure it out. But you could make it such that it's not like it is at the airport, where it's just kind of less obvious and they're walking through it in the mornings. And at a minimum, you could put a guy with a gun, or ideally more than one, standing out in front of the school, so that if in a situation like this, if there had been two guys armed outside of that church because their most precious cargo was inside of it, the guy, the odds of like a guy being able to come up and take out one guy unexpectedly, I guess, are higher. But two, unless it's a sharpshooter with a lot of training, I have my doubts. What will the effect of the sparring between President Trump and the Federal Reserve be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And what does this mean for your savings? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898 and consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.